but someone else said plantar fasciitis. Everyone familiar with plantar fasciitis? So typically we've got a spot just here, which is the origin of the plantar fascia, and that's where typically you get the pain. But you can get plantar fibromas that are further down the level of the foot. Some people have got very small heel
Are they
bones.
lumps, these fibromas? Are they
Yeah.
lumps?
Well, not. I might palpate a lump, but it's basically the same thing. They're different names, but it's further down. But the primary thing is in that heel. Is that where you get the pain, right? So I call plantar fasciitis kind of like the silent destroyer, really, because when you first feel it, you get up out of bed and it's typical like you stood on a stone, or people say frozen pea. If a pea had been there all night, it would not be frozen anymore, would it? Right? Unless your bedroom's really cold. So let's say you've checked for gravel and peas and you know there's nothing there. You think, why is my foot hurting? But 2 or 3 steps into it, the pain's gone. So you go, whatever. You don't feel it again then until the next morning when the same thing happens. Check for gravel, no peas, fine.
Lego?
Yeah? See again?
Lego?
Lego, could be Lego, that would be a bit more painful though. There's nothing more painful than standing on Lego, and that includes childbirth. So, go for a walk and then it calms down. As a runner, anything that doesn't stop you running, you go and run, yeah? So you go, a bit of pain in the morning, no problem. But it gradually really gradually creeps up on you. No one really comes in with plantar fasciitis at that steep curve. It can happen, but it doesn't happen. So, you might go for months before you go, do you know what, this is a problem. And you've got to that point where you've let it go.
When I was doing a race,
Right.
all of a sudden, I was just, fucked. I couldn't put
Right,
it
so
down.
you probably slightly different, so traumatic. So what I'm talking about is kind of
Yeah,
the middle of the
yeah,
belt.
yeah.
Yours sounds a bit more a traumatic
Yeah.
one. And there's also, if there's a hormonal change, then you can end up with plantar fasciitis or other tendon problems. Often comes out in the shoulders in non-runners, but you get it both sides, yeah? So there's other things, but yours are traumatic, so...
But it had been gradually building up.
Right, so you had some gradual build,
yeah.
right. So, now what you're left with is someone who was able to run and do all the things, and suddenly they can't even walk. It's like, it's painful to walk. Every time you've been sat either in your car or at your desk or whatever for even 20 minutes, you get up and you get the pain back again. It's not just in the morning. So it basically silently was creeping up, and it effectively destroys your life because it's so painful. And there are so many forums and stuff where people talk about this, where there's like 50,000 comments on plantar fasciitis and nothing else. So once upon a time, when I went back to when I first started practicing, someone came in and said, oh, I've got plantar fasciitis, and like every other practitioner back in the sort of late 90s, early 2000s went, oh, 18 months, 3 years, it'll calm down, there's nothing we can do. Yeah, well, that's no blooming good. I've got a race at the weekend. Oh, well, you're not going to race. Like, it's going to hurt. It's not going to happen. And I was just so dismissive. And he went, some physio you are, and walked out. And I just couldn't sleep that night. I was going, we can't just keep doing this to people. Plantar fasciitis. We've got to think about this. So I started researching loads. And that's the first time I looked into shockwave therapy. And actually, some of the early research didn't support it that well. New research. So anyone that has plantar fasciitis, Achilles tendon, knee tendon, I'm trying to beg them to have shockwave therapy. I've got one of the only machines in the northeast, so people do travel a little bit to come and get it. But I try and beg them because 6 weeks, pretty much all cases cleared up. It is that good. Yeah?
Really?
That good.
6 weeks?
6 weeks of treatment. It's pretty much that good. Yeah? I've got one failure on my hands, and that's got other factors going on which we know about. That's not to say I won't have more failures because nothing is that good, but so far using it, it's completely sublime against my old type of treatment. Anyway, going back to the late 90s, I developed what was then an 8-point plan, is now a 10-point plan, based upon everything that I've learned over that time, which has worked, and I've expanded this plan, reduced it down. I've now added shockwave onto it, so really it's an 11-point plan. But no barefoot walking. Don't start walking unless you've warmed your foot up. You need to stretch your 2 calf muscles and the muscle that flexes your big toe at least 6 times a day for at least 45 seconds. You need to use ice, maybe even non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, and I was slightly against those earlier. If your doctor okays it, not the ice, you can use the ice anyway, to try and moderate the pain and any inflammation that might be there. You need to have treatment every single week for a number of weeks. That could be 5 weeks, could be 20 weeks, I don't know. That's why the shockwave is so useful, because we confine it to the 6.
Because there was no in my area, because I was a bit told last year,
Right.
And I can remember you saying, forget like the split for the night time.
Yeah.
Not to be.
Well, the hard splints I'm not that
Yeah.
fan of,
Yeah.
but the Strasbourg sock I think is very, very useful.
Right.
Or it doesn't have to be the Strasbourg sock. I'm not linked to a particular sock. I can use any sock as long as it's got a bit of Velcro on the front. And I genuinely think that what we've got is an area of tissue that's breaking down. Yeah. And what we need to do is to warm that tissue up before you start using it. So I liken it to, imagine I got a knife now and I cut across my knuckle here. Yeah. And then I go to bed with a lollipop stick either side, so I splint it, wake up in the morning, take those off, and I do that with it. What's going to happen to the scab? It's going to break, scar tissue around is going to get bigger, I'm going to make that angry, and it's going to hurt like sting. Yeah? Once I get my finger moving, I'll still have created a bit more scar tissue, but it will move and it will be fine. Now the analogy of the Strasbourg sock is that what happens if I take my finger like that? I grow a much bigger area of repair. If I slowly wiggle my foot, so right in the alphabet, and if I slowly wiggle my finger like right in the alphabet of my foot, slowly work that back to straight, and I don't actually disrupt very much the repair. When we're in bed, our foot's repairing. When we're up and about at work, we're using our feet all the time, so we're constantly aggravating it. So if we can give it 6 to 8 hours of repair in that position, great. If we're then, before we stand up, we're going to get the thing going and move a bit of blood, great. And there is now a kind of move to start treating the plantar fascia a bit more like a tendon and start to load it like I was talking about in the classroom, isometric loads, with then moving on to heavy slow resistance and even going, not sure how you eccentric load it, but the same pattern. But I'm not sure if we're 100% there yet for me to be saying that specifically, but you know, sorry to mention the book again, but it is all in there, the 10-point plan, everything you need to do. It is my biggest chapter, it is my most favourite injury, because since the late 90s I've thought about it and researched it so much and invested 20 grand in a piece of kit that I know will help it, because from the moment I started treating people, these forums started getting a wash of people going, Paul's fixed my plantar fascia. So rather than people coming in like you, where it's painful throughout the day and you can still sort of do some running on it, I had people coming in wheelchairs going, I hear you can fix this. And I'm like, are you kidding? You know, because once word gets out that you fix one person, they go on that forum, everyone wants to get involved. And all I was treating was plantar fasciitis after plantar fasciitis, and they were getting worse and worse and worse. I haven't walked in 3 years. There he is, it's Paul. Yeah. So
what's the Strasbourg sock? Because they've just taped my foot up.
Strasbourg sock
So
is
I've got tape all over my foot.
right. So yeah, tape.